Hello guys, Jerry speaking. Welcome to LJPCBM. Oh, excuse me. Welcome to LJPCBM episode number 656. And today we're reacting to Purple Roads podcast, episode number 71. Owens portrayed Emily for Barney and Friends. React to this beginning in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, go.
I'm Carrie Stinson, and my journey through life has been quite an adventure. For over 20 years, I played Barney the Dinosaur on tour and 7 seasons of the hugely popular TV show Barney and Friends. Now my journey is to bring together friends and guests from all over the entertainment world for inspiring and at times amusing behind-the-scenes conversation. I'm Carrie Stinson, and this is Purple Roads.
Wow.
Welcome to Purple Roads. My name is Carrie Stinson, and I am so glad, as always, that you're here. This is going to be such a fun show. This is an episode. We've been asked about this one, and we're so glad to have her here today. We have Hannah Owens, who played Emily on Barney and Friends in seasons 5 and 6, and
Wow.
I am thrilled.
She's a cutie. Continue on.
Hannah.
Hey, I'm so happy I finally made it on here.
Well, it's so funny when it comes to this. We're reaching out to so many people, and just things happen. Life happens.
Yeah.
You're here today, and I'm thrilled you're here.
Yeah, me too. I'm in the middle of moving, so it's a little chaotic in here, but I'm here.
Well, COVID has just been chaotic. Life has been chaotic. So, we just do what we do, and you're here, and this is going to be fun.
Yeah, absolutely. Sorry about my voice. I played really late last night, so.
Yeah.
Well,
we
hey, no. And I want to get into that. I want to talk about what you're doing. And I think it's so cool. And so we'll definitely get there too. And obviously we're going to talk about Barney, but I kind of want to start off. How did you get into the industry? How did you even get into doing any acting?
I was a very obnoxious child.
Wow.
I begged my parents to let me do theater or anything of the sort, and I did stuff at Casa Manana here in Fort Worth.
Yes.
When I was a little bitty, and I had an agent for like commercials and stuff. I did like local commercials, and I begged my parents to let me go to the open call that was in Las Colinas for Barney. My mom was like, I don't know. And I had my dad wrap around my finger, so I just asked him like 27 times, and finally he said yes. And so we went, and that was the biggest acting thing that I had done. And after that, I did a ton of theater, which I still love.
Mm-hmm.
So did you know Barney at that point? Did you know of the show?
Yes, I have. They have videos and all sorts of pictures of me with all of my Barney stuffed animals and baby bops, and I was a huge, huge fan.
Okay.
Well, it's so funny because that would have been probably I don't remember what year that was, but I'm guessing I was on the road at that point. We had the shows going out, Barney's Big Surprise, and all of that, because
it would have been 97, 98, something like that, starting off.
Okay. So this is when he was really in his heights.
Yeah.
When the show was really big, and they've been in Las Colinas, I think, a couple years at that point.
Yeah, they had.
So it was a really big deal. And I think, as I recall, this was when, because we've had several of these people on the show. You were doing the puppet. So Scooter was there. Scooter McNutty.
Yes.
Yeah, he was on, and
Office. Yeah, I remember the first time I saw Office Space. I was like, "Mom, that's Scooter. That's Scooter."
And had you worked with anyone because this would have been David Joyner and Jeff Ayers and Jeff Brooks and Bob West, Patty and Julie.
Yeah.
What was that whole part?
All of them?
With costume characters and voiceover actors, and because there was a lot going on.
That was, yeah. I think that I just kind of just because like I didn't know how any of that stuff worked. I was 6.
Right.
And
Wow.
so I remember the first day being like, whoa, none of this stuff is real. And then from then on, it was just so normal to
Wow.
me. And it wasn't like I would go tell my friends about it. It was just something that I felt like I got to be part of this like secret cool thing.
Wow.
And it's not really real, but I'm in on the secret. So.
Okay.
Well, right, but you know, it's interesting you say that. Obviously, Purple Dinosaur is not real, but everything behind it's real, right?
But all of it felt real. Like, yeah, everything. I mean, when we were teaching lessons, when I was reading lines, I was learning the same lessons at the same time because I was 6.
Wow.
You know, that's fascinating. We've had several of the kids on the show. That's why I love doing this, because I learned something. I've never really thought of it that way, and that's really interesting. That the lessons that the show was teaching, you were learning them at the same time.
Yeah.
Do you remember the audition?
I do. I sang. I didn't know that they were going to make me sing. I was just such like, and I'm very much like this now. I was a fly by the seat of my pants kid. I'm a very much fly by the seat of my pants person. So I just strolled in there like, hey. And they told me to sing a song. So I sang, I love you, you love me. And I got a call back. But it was very in, out, simple. I don't remember it lasting more than 20 minutes. It was so fast.
Yeah.
And then there were a lot more auditions after that.
Oh, I can imagine. I can imagine.
Still.
Did they have you do any movement? Did you do any dance at that point?
Not on the first one. I think we kind of, like played around to see how you danced around with the other kids and stuff. But I think we didn't start doing that until the second audition.
Yeah, I think that's interesting, and I am friends with some of the producers. I know a lot of mindset. I've heard a lot over the years what they're looking for, but it's really interesting because I think you had singers, you had dancers. You didn't have to do everything, right? They they had specific looks they were looking for, but they would work on your strengths. So if you were the singer, they would give you solos. If you were the dancer, you would get that kind of thing.
Right. Everybody had their niche, which I think was important too. Because if everybody was good at everything, that wouldn't be realistic.
Well, no, it wouldn't, and that's really what the show was about, right? That whatever you are, whatever you do, is what makes you special.
Yeah.
I do remember the first time my brother. So I'm 8.5 years older than my brother.
Okay.
Wow.
And when he was watching it, my first, like 2 years on it or something, he was watching it and I was standing in the living room and he was looking at the TV and he looked over at me and looked back at the TV and he was so confused that I could be at 2 places in one time.
Wow.
And how did you explain that to him?
I don't know. My mom took care of that one.
Man.
So you get on the show, and I always find this part interesting, was because there's a lot going on, obviously, with everything, and at that time even more. You have puppets and costume characters and kids and animals and you name some special guests that come on. Was memorizing lines difficult for you?
Yes, but I was one of the only kids at my time. I don't know about before or after, but I was one of the only kids that made my school made me withdraw every time I would film. So I had to film like 3 episodes back to back, and then go to school for like a month, and then I would film 3 or 4 episodes back to back and go to school for a month. To whereas the other kids kind of had like a week in between. And so I would be memorizing lines for one and getting my revisions for that episode. And then while I'm getting my revisions for that episode, I'm memorizing lines for the next week. And that was hard, but I got used to it. My first year was pretty brutal with lines.
And then you were doing school there though as well, right, with Barney?
Yes.
Well, we'll get into that. There's so much I want to talk to you about. I want to keep going down this path, and then the singing. Was that easy for you? Because that's what you're doing now. Music has become such an important part of your life. Was that something that was natural to you, or did you have to work on that?
That was natural. It was super fun for me. That was my favorite part of anything, especially when we got to go into the recording studio every week and record either our parts or the parts that were all together. That was my favorite time of the week, is when we got to go to the studio. So yeah, I loved that part of it.
Yeah.
Well, and was it easy because you knew that, I mean, obviously some of those songs we were doing all the time. So was that easy that you probably already knew "I Love You" and maybe
Yeah, I knew some of them. There were
or
definitely lots of new ones. But my parents said that they would wake up like singing the songs, because I would just have to listen to them on repeat all the time.
Yep.
Well, a lot of those songs just stay with you.
They're all very catchy.
Yeah.
And then how was the movement? How was the dances for you?
The dances were fun. I definitely wasn't the most choreograph gifted human in the bunch, but I loved it. I thought it was so fun. And anytime I got to shine, I was like, yeah, they picked me. So the dancing was super fun for me too. And I danced after that for a long time.
Still.
Well, and I will get into so much I want to get into. You worked with Miss Penny at that time, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Your thoughts on Miss Penny?
Oh man, I was so scared of Miss Penny, but Miss Penny was a very interesting, powerful, amazing human. Miss Penny was awesome and terrifying.
Wow.
I understand that. I worked with Miss Penny for a long time. But
did you ever see somebody get hiccups in front of her? Was that a thing?
Yeah. It was a thing.
Wow.
It was a thing. I think because I was not a big mover as well. I had to get a lot of help to get me down to where, later down the line I did pretty well. But it took me a while to get there. And I think she was just amazing at looking at someone's ability and helping them and encouraging them.
Oh, yeah.
If she could tell you were working on it, then, that's all
you were golden. Yeah.
Right.
Ooh, and she would, if somebody told you something that she didn't like, she would stick up for us kids in a heartbeat so fast. She yelled at so many people for me.
So.
Well, and that's an interesting point. With as much going on, I think for the kids, if you put too many voices in your head, where if you've got one voice encouraging and helping and going,
yeah,
especially those other things. What was it like? I mean, you're in front of a lot of people, camera people and lighting and producers and directors and performers and all that. Was it intimidating when you first got on that set?
Yes. I had no idea. I just had no idea that many people were needed for something like that.
Wow.
And I don't know that I had really been around that many grown-ups at one time by myself, I remember the first day where my parents, because I think the first week I was there, my parents could come, like, sit in, and then the first week that I did it by myself, I was like, oh, wow, this is huge. But I learned how to, I think, I learned how to talk more like an adult and use better manners because of all that too. I think that was super, super helpful to me.
Yeah. So.
Yeah, it was such a supportive group. We talk about a family. We talk about all the time. I mean, one of the reasons I'm talking to you is because Jeff Ayers, who I love on this planet, was like, oh my gosh, you got to talk to Hannah. You got to talk to Hannah. You got to talk to Hannah. She's so great. Like, people are so supportive. I know about your music that you're doing now because of the same thing. You got to see what she's doing and all of that stuff. And it's just a supportive group.
Yeah.
That probably, once you started realizing that, made it a little easier, because it's got to be intimidating when you first go out on the set.
Yeah, it was. I think, yeah, it was the easiest. I mean, partly because I was so little, but I think it had the easiness of it is why I don't really remember the transition of being not on Barney to being on Barney. It was simple and it just felt normal. So all of a sudden I was there and I had a new family and it was, a fun thing.
Yeah.
Was it hard when you weren't in episodes, when you had to go back to school for a month?
Oh yeah. I would always Mom, what do you think they're doing? What do you think they're doing right now? I wanted to hang out with my friends, and that meant everybody.
Right. And then what's it like when the first episode comes out and you see yourself on TV?
Bizarre. That was very bizarre.
Wow.
My teacher at the time talked the whole second grade into watching my episode. And so we all sat and watched it. And some kids made fun of me, but a lot of kids were like, "This is awesome." And I just thought it was the coolest thing ever.
Wow.
I do remember the first time I ever was critical of myself, and that was it. Watching myself back on TV.
It's so funny because that's the question I was getting ready to ask you. Were you critical of yourself?
Oh, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
And critical in what way? Of singing or movement or facial expressions or?
My facial expressions, mainly my facial expressions, because I made some really funny faces.
Wow.
And I think sometimes my lines, like I knew when I they took what they could use because I just kept skipping over something. But that was all, a lot just myself. Nobody else knew.
Sure. Well, sure. Well, and my gosh, are you 6 and 7 and 8 years old?
Yeah.
Wow.
Because that's something obviously we know as the adults coming into this, as performers, as adults, is that you are working with kids. And I know how hard it was for me when I was in the show to have to, the movements and the lights and the cameras. It is a lot. And I'm a grown adult. And so,
still,
you understand that.
Mm-hmm.
Were you hard on yourself about it? Or were you...
I don't think I was hard on myself about it until like probably my last year doing it, because then I had kind of grown up a little bit and I definitely think I was pretty good until probably my last year, and then I was pretty hard on myself every once in a while, not always.
Yeah.
Usually there was so much going on and we were doing so much stuff that I didn't have time to even think about what I did wrong.
Wow.
Did you have favorite things to do? Was it to sing or the dancing or working with the puppets or favorite episodes?
I loved when we did movies and we got to change up the sets and we got crazy sets, and it would blow my mind, the sets that we got to hang out on for 2 weeks, that Pop Wheelie movie that I did with all that set was incredible. It was so cool. That was probably my favorite part.
Wow.
And then did you start doing plays in theater after this, or were you doing that while you were doing Barney?
I did The Sound of Music while I was doing Barney, and Captain Von Trapp was, I forget his name now, the guy that played, the guy that was in Wishbone.
Wow.
Anyway, he was...
Larry Brantley?
Larry Brantley, yeah.
He was,
did the voice of Wishbone?
No, not the voice of Wishbone, the Wishbone's owner.
Oh, okay. I don't remember his name.
Anyway, I don't remember his name, but he was he was Captain Von Trapp in that show. And then I stuck with Casa and did some other theater stuff after we quit. After we went on hiatus with Barney.
Yeah.
Is that when you ended with Barney, when they went on hiatus?
Mm-hmm.
So you did it up till then.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
I already know the answer to this. How difficult was that?
Oh, that was probably one of the most crushing. I remember the end of the rap party. I I had no idea that it would affect me like that.
Mm-hmm.
And we watched, the blooper reels with everybody, and that was a fancy rap party. They did it big. And we watched
Where was it?
blooper
Where
reels.
was it at? Where was it at?
Gosh, I'd have to ask my mom. I don't even remember. I just remember that we were dressed to the it was like black tie.
Wow.
But and then they played this video with all these sad songs about missing everybody, and
Wow.
oh my gosh, me and the other kids just hugged and cried and cried and cried, and I cried all the way home, and I cried for the day after. I just couldn't imagine not doing anymore. And then it got to the point where it was kind of nice that I didn't have to work all the time.
Wow.
But and I kept up with everybody for a good amount of time too. So
yeah, it's one of those tough things. It's just part of the business, obviously. But it's obviously much harder when you're a kid and not really understanding.
Yeah, well, and then I had to
business and why things,
And then I had to make sure that it wasn't me. Like I didn't do anything wrong, which it wasn't.
Oh no, absolutely not. And that is a tough thing for kids to understand that. I went through that a lot with some of the kids that no longer, and it's heartbreaking because a lot of times it was just because they grew up, they got older, those kind of things.
Right.
So let's talk about, because I have lots more Barney questions, but I want to talk about music because that has been such an important. Where did all this come from? It's been a huge part of your life.
Yeah, I sang for forever, and I got out of high school and I had absolutely no idea what I wanted to do. So I went to school online and I worked, and I sang in a few bands here and there, and then I moved to LA on a whim, and I met up with a bunch of Barney people there for a little bit. And
who'd you meet up with?
I saw David, I saw Erica Rhodes, who else did I see? They still lived here. Did I see
Because
Angel?
we've had Erica
Yeah, I
Rose
saw
on,
Angel.
had her on.
Oh, you have?
Yeah.
But that was a fun day. Several of us got together.
Yeah.
And but I didn't last very long in LA. I did not like it. So I moved back, and then I found out about the music scene in DFW and how talented and awesome, and how much different I thought it was. So much different than I thought it was. And so I started singing, and I started doing like harmony session work and background vocals and stuff. And I went through a really bad breakup with a musician, and I didn't know how to play an instrument, and I was so mad and frustrated that I decided I was going to teach myself how to play guitar, and so I did, and now I write and play guitar and sing.
Yeah, as I mentioned before, I haven't talked about this yet. I did react to Erica Rose and LJ Reacts. Continue on.
I love all this. I love all this. This is another reason I love having people on this doing this show, because that's a story that is typical in a lot of ways. But you kept going, and that's the part that makes this whole so interesting, right? Breakups happen, LA happens, all of those things, but you did all of those things. And I think that's fascinating, and it just seems like you have this drive within you. Obviously, you had it when you were 6 years old. You wanted to go be on a show, and got on a show, which was very difficult. Very difficult because so many kids audition for that, and then hear same thing. What is it that drives you about this industry, about entertainment, whether it's performing or singing?
I think for me right now, I'm trying to focus on like the artistry of all of it. I'm super determined to not let to not let me being an artist deter, like me not wanting a real job, or I can make anything I want a real job, and I can make
Right.
anything that I'm passionate about a real job. And so
Sure.
I've always felt like that, and I think that that's my number one drive is I want to do stuff that makes me happy, and if that's
Yeah.
drawing or singing or writing or whatever, I'm going to do that. I'm not going to do something that doesn't make me happy.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I have that, we get bit by that creative bug where you just have to be creative. I'd love to hear your version of what is that for you, where you have to be creative. It's just part of your life.
Mm-hmm.
Like what do I do, or how does that?
Well, explain that, like, because I'm in the same boat, right? I can do a job, I can do all those kind of things, but if I'm not being creative, whether it's a podcast or I've done photography, I mean, I'm the worst singer in the world. I don't know that I've ever told this on the show, but I went and took singing classes in college and got up in front of hundreds of people, and I was absolutely horrible. And my teacher gave me an A in the class, and she goes, if your passion could match your voice, you'd be the best singer in this world. Like there's just things you have to do.
Yeah.
And so I failed too in this industry, but I just keep going because it's just within me. I can't really explain it, but I just have to be creative.
Mm-hmm.
If you can't explain it, what is it? What is that for you? Just that keeps you going, even if you're told no, or you know.
I just feel like I have to. I don't think that I really have. I mean, I know that sounds like so simple and black and white, but
Right.
I think for me and my brain, the way that I'm wired and the way that I work, I think that I have to. I don't think I have a choice. If I did something that didn't use my weirdness and wildness and artistry, I would go crazy, and I think I would be a very unhappy, probably unkind person.
Yeah.
And I don't want to be any of those things.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And I'm guessing, because I think have some of this in common.
Yeah.
Failing's really not failing. If you're being creative and you're going at it, whether I get the job or not, or whether I'm great or not, I did it. I've done it. Okay, that's not my path. I'm going to go a different path.
So.
Right. For
seem
me,
to have that too.
Yeah, I mean that's like with my writing, I'm really hard on. I struggle with being hard on myself with writing, but like you're saying, if I show up to I've been calling it showing up to the page. I just finished this really incredible book called The Artist Way, but
Yeah.
if I show up to the page every day, it doesn't matter if it's good or not. But if I'm putting in my due diligence and I'm putting in if I'm treating it like a job still, and I'm still showing up and doing my work, it will work out. It will eventually, something will come out.
So what type of music do you do?
That's the hardest question in the world. I have no idea.
Man.
I don't know. It's really sad and it's really slow.
Yeah.
But is it something? Are you developing? Do you go, okay, I want to go kind of this path? Obviously, you've added guitar.
Yeah, I do. I love the kind of alternative singer-songwriter type stuff. It's not country, which I love me some country music. It's just not for me.
Right.
And but there's I don't know if you know who Brandi Carlile is.
I do.
But Brandi Carlile and Phoebe Bridgers and those types of artists, they're writing and they're just like pouring out their soul to people and making other people feel like, oh my gosh, it's going to be okay. Other people feel like this. I want to make people feel like that. That's the kind of music I want to make.
Now, so you perform a lot.
Mm-hmm.
What is that like? Getting in front of a crowd with your music and performing.
For a good 6 months, it was non-existent because of the pandemic, or probably longer than that.
Right.
But so it's really funny. I was so outgoing and charismatic, and I didn't care when I was a kid, and I was in front of cameras all the time. And
Yeah.
now when it comes to, I get on stage and I close my eyes and I become this very, like, almost meek. I don't like that word, but
Yeah.
meek in my music. And I don't know if it's because I'm just still new at it or if that's because it's personal stuff or what, but it's definitely different than me being entertaining people in front of cameras. I think putting my words in front of people and I can see their reactions is a lot more terrifying.
Why is that?
Well, if you're behind a camera, you can't see the other people that
Sure.
are, So this
Sure.
is just it's just a way different. I guess it's just a way different angle of it.
Yeah.
Well, I'm curious if you're doing something like Barney or any of the plays that you've done or things like that, you're performing someone else's material, right? So when you're doing Mr. Knickerbocker, right? Someone else wrote that, someone else is doing that. But when you're performing a song that you wrote, right? So it's not only but it's you, right?
It's all me. Yeah.
Yeah.
Is that more difficult to do something of that nature where
Absolutely.
it's your music?
Yeah, absolutely. For me, anyway.
Yeah.
No, well, that's what I would think, because that's something I haven't done. So I'm curious about that. Where do these songs come from? Is it life experiences? Is it things you've felt, you've seen?
But I think for the most part, it's life experiences. I'm trying to work on, like I said, I'm trying to write every day and just get little things out, even if it's stuff that I see, stuff going on with other people, because I'd like to get to the point where I'm not relying on life experiences, because it's really hard to write when I'm really happy. And, I've been really happy for a while, so it's really hard for me to write when everything's going great, and I want to figure out a way that I don't have to write from a place of, sad every time. But we're getting there.
Well, that's interesting. Why is that?
I don't know. So I had this is something really cool that happened. I just got done with this writing class, and one of our guest speakers was Mark Cohn, the guy that wrote Walking in Memphis. And so I was telling him that, and I was like, why is that? And he was like, that's me. Like, that's not, if you're good at something, and if you're good at writing something emotional or sad or whatever, then don't make yourself not be good at it. Just keep on with what you're good at, because that's what he tried to do, and obviously did a great job at it. But
yeah.
What did you learn from your Barney days that you put into the days now?
Work ethic. Definitely work ethic. And I think treating people, if people have interest in what I'm doing, even if and this sounds ugly, and I don't mean it ugly, even if I have less interest in what they're doing than what they have interest in what I'm doing, I should not be any less kind to somebody. I think that my years on that show taught me how to treat people, because I was shown that people could be very kind to me and treat me with respect even as a child. And so I think that I not only expect that from others, but I immediately want to give that to others also. That helps in entertainment career.
Yeah, I think it's so fascinating. And I love that you said that, because that was my experience as well. And we look at the times we're in right now, and we were doing it back in the 90s. Like, it was just how you, like,
right.
I'm trying to get this out because I hear all this.
On. Come in.
I need to run up to the store real quick. I'll be back.
Okay, that's fine.
Thank you.
Continue on.
I love that you're like stuttering like that, because when people when I get on it, like when I get on a be kind to people and I don't understand, I start to stutter like that because it just it doesn't compute in my head how you don't, you know.
Right. It's not something new. I didn't need to learn how to love people or to respect people or do all
Yeah.
those things.
Still.
We weren't told when we were doing that show or any aspect of Barney, you know, you got to treat this or that. No, I never saw anyone get in trouble for all the problems we're having.
Yeah.
We didn't have those problems. It was a mutual respect for absolutely everyone. And if anyone was like we were talking about, if you were having struggled with dance, then someone helped you with dance.
Yeah.
You didn't get belittled. You didn't get, or I didn't, or whatever it may be.
Yeah.
No.
It was really authentic. It was really true. We talk about love all the time. There absolutely was, and still is.
Yeah, it's amazing how many. I mean, even like us being in contact, and you know, what a small little world that Barney group was, because you know, I keep in contact with some of the kids. I'm still Facebook friends with most of them. You know, they keep up with me. I think it's just all I'm just so glad that it's such a different thing that I got to experience than other kids. And I think that I just don't think that I would be the person that I am without that. I think that it really shaped me in a good way.
Did you ever have the opportunity to see fans? Did you ever make a wishes or any of those aspects? Did you ever see any of that?
I never got to do we never did big promo stuff like that. I kind of wish that we would have, because I loved anytime we had like certain fans come to the set. That was my favorite. And it's just, I remember like going to the green room afterwards, seeing this girl and her hugging me and crying because she never thought that she would. And I was like 7, and this girl was just so excited to meet me. And you know, every I thought it was so great. But I went to the, I don't know, the green room or the bathroom or something afterwards, and I cried because I just didn't think that I would be able to touch somebody like that. And those were my favorite.
Well, that's where I was going, because I had those experiences as well, but I'd obviously never seen anything like that in my life beforehand. And that's one of the many things that really changed my life, when you see the effect that you can have on someone.
Yeah.
Because you're doing a job that you love, right? But then you realize, oh my gosh, people love what you're doing.
Yeah. And they really, really loved it. I mean, people still love what I you know, and that's great. I think that just goes to show how special of a thing that it was, and how I don't think that there was ever. I look at cast, like, because I look at shows differently now, because I'm like, I wonder what was going on behind. You know, I wonder if everybody was happy. I wonder, because with ours, I feel like for the most part everybody was happy and kind and helpful, and I just don't think that you find a group of 80 to 100 people at a time that are always that kind to each other anymore.
It's really interesting. It's really interesting, because I feel the same way. And you know, since I started doing this, everyone I've reached out to is like, oh my gosh, Carrie, I'd love to come on. I'd love to talk. I'd love to tell my stories. And I don't run into that. I don't run into anyone. Sure, we all had things in life. There's no question about that. But everyone's experience really seems to be something that they enjoyed and they loved, and it's fascinating. So you now go into what you're doing now and singing and performing. What is that like for you when someone comes and says, you know, this song meant something to me, or your performance meant something, or I love coming to see you? What is that like?
It's incredible. And like last week I played a show, and this guy came up to me and he said, I wrote there's a song that I wrote called 3 Years Later, and it's basically about somebody telling you that, you need to just change a little bit, and a little bit at a time, just changing yourself, and that's not fair. And so this guy came up to me, and he was not very much older than me, probably mid to late 30s. And he said, I have a daughter, and I just want to play that song and repeat for her so she knows how to treat herself, and she knows how to think. And so he just said really awesome things about him wanting to hear that for his daughter. And I was like, oh, thanks. It doesn't get old, and it's really incredible. That's another motivation that makes me want to keep doing it.
So where do you see it going?
I don't know. I got to start making money.
Well,
Sure. Absolutely. And that is the hard part about this industry. You have to find that balance, obviously.
Right. And so right now I do, I bartend several nights a week. And that pretty much takes care of anything that I need it to. But that opens me up to play 4 gigs a week. And now that Texas is starting to open up a little bit more, I'm definitely getting a lot more gigs and stuff, which is exciting. But I'm releasing a record in several months, and I don't know that I just want to be able to, I think, just learn more and write more. But I refuse to not be in the industry, at least for another 7-8 years. I really want to give this my all, and I don't know if that means that I'll be a performer for forever, but I want to do something in it for forever. So I don't know exactly what that entails.
Well, let's talk about a new album.
Yeah.
So did you write everything?
So there's 2 songs on the record. It's an EP, so there's 6 songs. 4 of them I wrote. 2 of them I didn't write. My producer wrote one, and he had it from a long time ago, and I just loved it. And he was like, "You need this song," and it's actually called "Don't Want to Live in LA." So it was like kind of perfect. He was like, "No, you need this song. I get it." And then another one was my really good friend Gates Houghton. She wrote a song called Tequila, and I used to be in a girl band called Wandering Daisy, and we did that song for a while. And she moved to New Mexico. She had a baby and moved to New Mexico, and then I started doing my own solo stuff. But Gates was like, "Do you still want to record my song?" And I was, "Yes, please." So there's 2 songs on there that I didn't write and 4 songs that I did. But
I can't stop smiling about "Don't Want to Live in LA." We have fans from LA. I've got so many friends in LA. I have worked in LA.
No, it's nothing against LA.
But I talk about on this show constantly. I'm a Texas guy through and through. I have traveled the world. I've traveled everywhere in the U.S. with touring for years and years and years and years, and I love it here. And so I can't wait to hear that song, because I can get it. I can get it because, and I love what you said earlier about learning about the DFW music scene, because I think that's so important.
The talent here is unreal. I mean, I'm sure the talent everywhere is unreal. It's just not being focused on like it should probably. But
sure.
Especially the Fort Worth music scene lately, it's just it's really, and there's a camaraderie about it that is pretty unmatchable in a lot of places. I think it's a really neat thing going on.
Well, several things on that. Back in the day, it was you go to LA or you go to New York, and that has just really changed. Everywhere's got scenes now, and you could be successful. I got my Fort Worth shirt on here.
I know, I saw it. I was like,
I'm a big Fort Worth. I used to live in Dallas, and I still love Dallas, but I am Fort Worth all the way. Through. My dad was born in Fort Worth, So I feel like I finally come home to the place I'm supposed to be at.
Yeah.
So I love Fort Worth. I love what they're doing. I don't think, unfortunately, they get hit behind Dallas a lot. And
We're working on it. They're working so hard.
I love it. I was looking at the places you play, and I was like, oh my gosh, these are so many places that I love. And so I'm excited that that's going on and getting out of there. I want to talk a little bit about what happened last year. What was it like for you for COVID to hit for a performer, and all of a sudden you can't go out and perform?
So this record that I'm gonna release soon, I got my master's back the day before everything shut down.
Wow.
So I was heartbroken because I wasn't gonna release it when everything was shut down, and I was like, well, maybe things will get better, and then things just, obviously things got worse.
Right.
And 1 month turned into 6 months, turned into a year, and here we are. But I think everything happens for a reason, in my opinion, and I think I'll release this record when I'm supposed to. But now that things are opening up, venues are booking a lot more, and that's great. But that 6 to 8 months, my boyfriend plays full time also, and he has an 8-year-old that we take care of, and it was a hard thing. It was a lot of scrambling and figuring out little ways to get by, not just financially, but like mentally,
Right.
taking care of our mental health, and we're not being able to be creative in the ways that we're used to. So how do we make sure that we're okay too?
Right.
So,
yeah, I think that's you're still smiling, you're still happy.
Yeah. And we just moved into a new house, so that's really great. So
what's it been like getting back on stage? Being in front of, because I know, didn't you did some stuff on like this, live streams?
I did a bunch of live streams throughout it, and which was honestly so weird to me, because you play your song, and it's not like in a Zoom meeting to where people can like clap back or anything. Like you're doing a Facebook Live or something, and so you get done with your song and you just, okay, I'll go to my next one, and you don't have any interaction other than with yourself and the screen.
Right.
And so then I kind of got used to that, and when I had to get back used to playing in front of people, that was extra weird too.
Yeah.
But I think everybody, no matter what you do, I think everybody's just so weirded out right now. Everybody's got things going on, and everybody's got their normalcies that have been taken away and then getting back used to. So,
well, it's funny you say that, because we went to see our first show in Fort Worth end of March.
Wow.
And I'm a huge Texas country fan, and
so
we went to see Walt Wilkins.
Yeah.
Do you know Walt Wilkins, singer-songwriter out of Austin?
Yes.
And I think everyone didn't know what to do. The seats were so that it was all you had to basically buy a seat. There was no standing, none of that. And both sides. I mean, it just felt so good.
Right.
To hear music, and they were so used to an audience, and it's kind of like what we're doing here right now. It was just like this dialogue between people, and anything they played, every song, everyone just enjoyed it so much.
I remember, I think the first time that I played like an actual venue again, I said, I got done with my first song, and I saw some people dancing, and I said, do y'all remember what it's like to hug people? And then I almost got choked up, because I was like, oh, we're really doing it again,
Wow.
Well, it's so funny, performers are usually that type of right? We're huggy, touchy feely, and
Oh my gosh.
obviously,
I'm in
playing.
everyone's bubble usually.
Well, right, and obviously for Barney, I hugged people for 22 years, and all of a sudden I have to stand away. I can't interact, and I'm home a lot, and I'll tell you, it was tough. And finally, anyone I'd meet, the postman I'd be talking to, it was just so great to talk to people. So I can imagine.
My Amazon guy and me got really close.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Well, I want to finish with some Barney stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Did you have a favorite song to perform?
So I know that my favorite movie that I did was Mother Goose, because I sang so much in that one. And I think a lot of those songs were my favorite. That was just one of my favorite movies to do. That was the songs in it were great and so nostalgic.
Because I'd say for me, I always loved Raindrops. I always loved performing Raindrops.
Mm-hmm.
The producers used to laugh at me because I always liked the green grass grows all around, all around.
Oh, I know my favorite one, the popcorn song.
Wow.
There you go.
It's really neat. Yep.
Yeah.
Right. You just made a lot of Barney fans happy for doing that. What was it like for you? I've never asked this question because I had several of the kid actors on. What was it like doing the "I Love You" song? That obviously became very iconic. What was that like for you when you're actually singing about love?
It felt so. I feel like everybody in our cast and that was close crew wise, that was close to the cast, made it feel important every time. It was not a throwaway song just because we knew, like the older I get, you go into things and you're like, oh, I know this, I got it. And it was never one of those, we know it, we got it situations. It was always no, we're ending this the right way. We're doing it, and it was always made to feel important. And I thought that was really cool.
Yeah.
What was it like? So we'll just say with Barney. So you're acting with Barney. Was it hard for you to figure out like where to look? That there's someone in a costume and there's a voice somewhere else. When did Barney become real for you? Even though you knew, obviously. How was that performing with these costume characters?
I don't think it ever became real. I think that I coincided David and Barney because David was such a Barney type personality anyway, and he was. So I think that I guess Barney was real in a sense to me because it was like the idea of it and the dream of it and the teaching of it, and I think that I probably coincided them together sometimes because I felt like their kindness had the same similarities. But I always knew that it was. But you're right. I didn't ever think of it as fake. It was still very real. Just it was a different type of reality, but it was still very real.
Still.
It's interesting because still to this day, I've known and become such good friends with Jeff Ayers. And I mean, Baby Bop and Jeff Ayers, to me, I've never seen anything like it. Like, he just became
It was the same. It was the same, and it was just one of the coolest things that I had been around.
Yeah, right. When you see something like that, you just, it's interesting. So, favorite moments?
I loved the bloopers, and anytime when we would know that something was going on the blooper reel, I loved that. I loved the laugh. God, we just laughed so much.
Yeah, if you want to just buy bloopers for you, I'll throw a bits and pieces of it. Continue on.
Laughed so much. Even if I knew Miss Penny was about to get on to me, we'd still giggle. And she'd laugh with us after she got on to me too, We just laughed so much.
All right, so how are we going to find your music? How do we can people come see your shows?
Yes. Facebook and Instagram is my best right now. I'm building a
Okay.
website right now, but my Instagram is Hannah Owens Music, all one word. That's the easiest to find where I'm playing. And then in a couple months, I'll start posting teasers and stuff for my record. And then that'll be on all platforms, Apple and Google and Spotify and all that.
Which is going to be big enough for you, Hannah, if you're watching this, continue on.
And know that they can find them through Purple Roads. All of our social media, we will promote like crazy and get you out there. And I'm going to come see you. I don't think I know I'm not that far away from you. And a lot of those places you play, I go to. So I'm going to look you up. I'm going to come see you as well. Maybe I'll grab Jeff Ayers on some of
Oh my gosh, that would be the best.
And we'll come.
I would die.
Yeah, we'll come surprise you because I see those guys.
Wow.
And we'll come show you some support. Hannah, I can't thank you for doing this. This has just been great. I've loved talking to you and hearing your stories. It's just awesome.
Thanks for having me. This has been so much fun.
Well, we may have to bring you back on again and catch up with everything you got going on.
Sounds good.
Well, thank you so much. Thank you for watching Purple Roads. And remember to keep your eyes, ears, and your heart open, and you'll find your Purple Road. We'll see you next week.
That was Purple Roads, episode 71. Hannah Owens portrayed Emily for Barney and Friends. What do I think about this episode? It was amazing. So far, this episode went to be a success. Anyways, guys, that was episode of LJPCBM, episode number 656. Hope you enjoy it. Stay tuned for the next one, which is going to be LJPCBM, episode number 657. Remix Palm Television Replay. It's going to be called the Ram Podcast for May 30th, 2021. Till next time, so job is goodbye. Peace out, baby. We get more eligible reactions, guys, very soon. Till then, jump out. See ya.
Given unto me this life I'll never take for granted, and given all the time I fail to really understand it, I never sought to meet the maker of reality, the one who gave the life that which is always happening, but I tried all the time. Why was I the one to see things as I do under the moonlight and the sun? Perception is the question, and the giver holds the key.